Okay, it's time to test this reed, and this is usually a moment of disappointment, I have to admit, because if your standards are high, you're going to get maybe 1 in 4 of your reeds to be worthwhile proceeding with. So I'm pretty ruthless at this stage about trying to eliminate reeds that will be a waste of time for me to work on. So we're going to test it on the bassoon right off the bat. One thing to do first, to even find out whether the reed is worth testing, is to test the pitch of the crow, okay? And the reed can be tuned in this way. The predominant pitch of the reed for A440 on your bassoon should be about an E or an F above middle C on the piano. The way to get the pitch is to put your lips very carefully on the first wire, so your lips are not exerting any influence on how the reed vibrates, kind of like a Renaissance instrument where the reed is recessed. And blow softly, increasing the speed of the air until a single pitch appears. So that pitch, we're going to find out what that is. So I've got an E there. Okay, so that means that the reed is pretty much finished in some very basic ways, and it will be a worthwhile reed as far as its tuning is concerned. All right, good. Let's also check a few other things on the reed. 2 things I like to do when I'm finishing a reed. One, I like to do a hairpin long tone to check the volume of the reed, both at the soft end and at the loud end. Okay, so pick a nice easy note like C in the staff, and see how soft you can start. So we're rolling. Is she on the phone? Okay. All right. So I like to do a long tone, starting soft, getting loud, and then soft again, to see about how easy the reed is to control and what sort of dynamic range the reed has. So. So the reed is very strong, and it's hard to get a pianissimo start, but it has a nice full sound, a bit hollow sounding to my ears. So because it feels stable to me, I'm going to go ahead and do some more work on it. And what I'm going to do is, I know that I've left the back of the reed somewhat thick. So I'm going to take a little more off the reed and get it to be a little more manageable in the mouth. Do not work on the reed when you've got the bassoon hooked in the seat strap. Reed shavings can get under the pad seats and cause a leak, actually. So it's really good to have a stand or just to put the bassoon down when you're doing this. It's tempting to have the bassoon right next to you when you're doing it, but your repair technician will thank you if you separate reed from bassoon at this stage. So I'm just thinning things all over in the back of the reed, just to make it a little easier to play. I'm trying to work with a very smooth stroke here as well, so that I get rid of any high spots on this reed. In addition to that, I'm going to enhance the tip a little bit by thinning it at the very, very edge, like the last millimeter of blade. This will give me an easier start to my pianissimo sound. So I'm going to just do a little more finishing on my tip before I try the reed again. Okay. Notice I'm not soaking the reed again. Now, depending upon your climate, you may need to do
I
this.
just went and tried to lift it, and I'm not sure I can actually lift it, but I.
Hey, we're recording right now. So I don't necessarily re-soak the reed when I'm working on it and scraping between scrapes. I don't believe that new reeds need to be re-soaked particularly. I don't like the waterlogged sound they tend to get through repeated soakings while you're breaking them in. Now, if you live in a really dry climate, you may need to re-soak your reed in this part, but I would avoid it so that the reed has a clear sound when you're working on it. Also, the reed is very reactive to this stage. At this stage, the things you're doing to it, and the tip may open more than you want. Always get the tip opening the way you want it before you try it. And you can either use the pliers or just massage it like I am with my fingers. So let's try the C again, see if we can get a better pianissimo. Got a little better pianissimo in there, and the sound is just a little more refined. So I'm feeling better about the reed. The other thing I like to do, and this is a way of checking the symmetry of your scraping, is to do a broken arpeggio slowly slurred on the reed. And this teaches you how to play on the reed, and it also tells you how easily the reed makes big interval changes. So what we're going to be listening for is a nice smooth legato and no kind of bumps or clicks in the arpeggio that I play. So. So the one from B up to high G was a little hesitant, wasn't it? It's got a little bit of a click. The reed is a little weak up there. Now it may stiffen up and that may improve, but that also may tell me that there's some asymmetry between the two blades in my scraping. So I'm going to go to the dial indicator and see if I can locate where that is. I like to do just kind of middle register work with this. I don't play a lot of high notes on the reed because I don't think it's a good idea to be squeezing the reed shut when you're trying to get it to vibrate. So generally I'll stay below high A, for instance, when I'm trying a new reed. For me, generally the reed stiffens up as I break it in, and my high notes come in naturally. I don't worry too much about having them there at the beginning. I also do want to check the low register to see whether the back of the reed is close to being finished. So let's do that now. A good, decent sound, right? The low D is not weak, seems pretty well in tune, pretty even. So I'm pretty happy with this reed to start off with, except for that little weakness up high. It still feels a little unmanageable in the mouth, so I think there's some places for scraping that I could find. A really good thing to do now is to sandpaper the whole blade to get off those high spots that are there. So I'm going to do that now and then play on the reed a little bit. And it's the same principle as what I did when I was sandpapering the tip. You want to just go over the whole reed and from front to back. And so using my thumb as a pressure point, I'm just sanding the whole blade of this reed. In my reed scrape, smoothness is very important. I do not carve areas into my reed particularly. My reed has got more of a blended scrape from front to back and from center to sides. There aren't really regions on my reed. They're just more gradual transitions, I guess is a good way to say it. Okay, so I've sanded that away. Now let's just see if I got any better sound or what's improved or what hasn't. And the tip is a little open, so I'm going to close that down again. pretty weak up there, it's still a little weak, but the slur was smoother anyway, so I'm going to go with that. One more thing I like to do with my first scrapes is to make sure my second wire is tight. When I wire the reed up, I purposely leave the second wire a tiny bit loose to allow for cane expansion. Quite often I end up needing to tighten that wire a little bit. This may help the reed close better, and I think you may notice a little difference in the sound when I get this one just right. So it's a common adjustment for me that I do after the tip is cut. Let's see if this sounds better. It's a more powerful resonance sound, and I think what's happening there is now the fulcrum of the reed is engaged. We'll talk more about that when we discuss the beveling stage, but you can tell that reed is more power and more focus. Okay? That's it.